Today on Locked On Canadiens, where is Kent Hughes' summer blockbuster trade? We've been waiting for it, and we are not seeing it. Plus, a special guest to discuss all kinds of stuff coming up.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadiens. We want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. As you know, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. I want to remind everyone to play responsibly. My name is Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick. And listen, the people demand more Kay. This is literally like in the comments on YouTube. We got multiple people not just excited that Kay was back on a couple of weeks ago, also asking for more Kay, saying we should have her on all the time. And literally the words, the people demand more Kay, are written in our comment section. So we live to serve our listeners. Kay Imam of Game Over and just all around amazing Habs fan is back. Kay, how are you doing?
I'm doing so good. And after that introduction, doing even better, I would just like to say I think I've kind of incepted people into getting used to seeing my face, because in this season I was all there all the time, and now people are like, where is she? So I think a lot of our audience is getting their fix at your show. So thank you so much. I did a good job, I guess.
Kay is an integral part of the Locked On Canadiens extended universe and part of Game Over. If you don't know, Game Over will post episodes live reacting to games immediately after Habs games, every single game. And Kay is one of the premier talents. I want to say this, like your debut season, your rookie season was a Lane Hudson-esque season, I think. We really had a really good time. So Kay, you are going to be back next season, right?
As far as I know, yeah. And if I'm not, you can find me at the corner in your local, I guess, downtown area, just yelling about the Habs game. Like if I'm not on Game Over, if I'm not on your screen, I'm out there somewhere. Don't find me, but if you happen to run across me, hey,
say hi.
say hi.
Respectfully. All right. So one of the things I do want to rant about is that Kent Hughes will always do a late summer blockbuster. We are now fairly into late summer, right? Like September is around the corner and we're middle of August. And really quickly, I do want to say, because we are releasing the episode on the Wednesday, it is still my co-host Ian's birthday. So wishing him a happy birthday. Right. But back to the late summer thing. You know, Kent Hughes owes us a blockbuster trade. We got Liney last year. We got Jeff Petrie once. We got Jeff Petrie another time. And I don't want anyone telling me that Dobson was the blockbuster trade, because a couple of years ago, he did the whole Romanov doc, all of that thing, as well as a late trade. So I need the blockbuster trade. Kay, what do you think Kent Hughes is up to right
now? I don't know exactly, but I do know that man is doing something. I don't think he has an off button. I imagine there's like 5 phones. Somehow they're all in his hands. Like he's got one in his shoulder. He's holding it like this. Listen, I've been bullish on this all summer, and I'm not backing down at this point. Do I believe it or not? I don't know. You decide. But I'm not backing down. I think there's something in the works. And if nothing else, I 100% believe that Kent Hughes is trying, because I don't think it's in his nature to just sit back.
I think he has at least one phone. He's got 2 phones. I feel like he's a 2-phone guy. Like Kent Hughes, and I always think about the press conference that they gave at the end of this season, where Jeff Gordon kept talking about how annoying Kent Hughes used to be as an agent, right? So I'm really hoping that he's channeling that annoyingness into just working the phones the whole time to get us that late summer deal. I don't mind if it's a little late too. Like I know a lot of Habs fans are talking about, like, let's see how the season plays out. You know, a couple months in, there might be teams that are selling that we didn't think would. But if you had your way, Kay, is there a particular team that you would raid, or is there a particular player you have an eye on? And we can't say McKinnon. Like that's a pipe dream, but who would
That's
we,
right.
somebody who's actually realistic. So that also means I can't say Sidney
I was
Crosby.
gonna say you can't say Crosby either. Excuse me. Um, I really genuinely don't have any idea. I really don't. I because some of the stuff that I was thinking about, so the right-handed defenseman, and Dobson, that's already there. Someone to possibly play on the penalty kill, that's someone that's there. Well, hopefully, there's a few options there. I believe it's Bulldog who said
Hmm.
recently that he would be down to do that. Um, I kind of, I don't, I feel like the pieces that we're missing are, as always, 2C. I don't think that's getting fixed. I don't think that's happening. Or I think we're missing like maybe a solid bottom six center, and that's not very exciting. So I don't have a lot of names for that. One guy I vaguely heard of, and then I'll fall in love with him, and that's just how it'll be.
I think that one of the things that I do appreciate about this front office is that they're not making a move just for the sake of making a move.
Mhm.
Everybody in the world knows that the Montreal Canadiens are missing a number 2C. The reality is that multiple teams are missing a number 2C, right? Like a viable option. But because the Montreal Canadiens did so much this past season to get themselves into the conversation, right? With watching Lane Hudson do well, with watching Nick Suzuki take that massive step forward, with watching Cole Caulfield almost score 40 goals, like there was a lot of expectation that wasn't there at the beginning of last season that the Canadiens created by the time the offseason rolled around. So that's why everybody's talking about this need. But you can look around the league and there's a bunch of teams that are looking for a number 2C. The advantage the Montreal Canadiens have is that they are an attractive destination now because there's so much promise. And there's also like, we want to talk about how smart they're going to be with the cap math. What are they going to do with Carey Price's contract? All of that kind of stuff. But I think the conversation is very focused on the Montreal Canadiens looking for a 2C. And that's why I personally feel that that's not what they're going to do before the offseason is over. I feel like they're going to kind of make a stealth move. This also like gives Kirby Dach an opportunity for the first couple of months of the season to get things together. I really think that where the Montreal Canadiens are going to surprise us is at third line center, because while there are people in
Mhm.
Laval that might be ready to make that jump, I do think that they're going to get someone and we're going to look at that and we're going to say, hey, you know what? This is a very solid move. It's not exciting, but it's a move that makes us feel comfortable with the way the bottom six is going.
I would agree with that. Excuse me. I would totally agree with that. I think that it's not going to be an exciting move or like a huge exciting from the outside move. I think as Habs fans we can appreciate it. Um, but I think Kent got his big name out of the way early this year, and I think he's cooking on a few of the fundamentals that aren't as exciting. Um, this team, for all its new modern thinking and all its, new philosophy, I would say, or rare philosophy. I think one of the things that they do, just like most other teams, value is experience. And I think that makes sense. I don't think that's a bad thing. You go for a job at a certain point, you're looking for experience, right? Um, and I don't love the idea of two bottom six centers. Well, Jake Evans is there, so I guess not. But I'm talking in terms of I just don't love the idea of throwing one of our rookies there, especially because there is a lot of movement on this team. It's going to be a very exciting year. It's going to be, I would maybe a bit of a frustrating year, maybe a bit of a fun year. Who knows? But it's going to be a year of movement. And I think this team is looking for something solid on that third line to center some movement around. Galley, Andy, and Dvorak were working so well together. That was the line combo, I think. And now, Dvorak's gone. So there's no longer that steady line. The fourth line used to be a go-to with Armia, Evans, and Heineman when that was a line. Now that no longer exists. Now it's just Jake Evans standing there in an empty room. So I think there is I can definitely see a solid proven option finding a spot there. Sorry, that was rambly, but
It was not. You made your point, and you were talking about it might not be exciting or make a huge splash, but it turns out to be like really the right decision for the team. I think the last time that happened was when they got Alex Carrier, right? That
yes, yes,
that was just a kind of like, oh yeah, they gave up on Justin Barron. That was the main story. But then in the
yeah.
playoffs, or as we got closer to the playoffs, we realized what a big move that was.
Oh,
So
my beloved, I love
I
him so
know,
much.
right? He brings so much to this team now, and it's the epitome of like, we've had him for 5 minutes, and now we would die if anything happened to him, kind of thing. So I do believe, and I have faith in this front office. Unlike very many other GMs or front offices around the league, they're not just going to make a move for the sake of making a move. Like when they
Mhm.
get someone, if they do get it from outside, it will be a move that's kind of like Carrier. But you did mention, Jake Evans standing in an empty room. We also talked about, what happens next season if they don't come out of the gate as the way we want them to. We're going to get to both of those topics coming right up next. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. Personally, I'm always going to go for Josh Allen in these cases. Crown your champion in August. This is definitely Buffalo's year, or parlay your division winner dark horses. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. And I just want to remind everyone, as always, to please play responsibly. All right, we are back with the lovely and talented Kay Imam of Game Over Montreal. And we're going to talk a little bit about something that we don't want to think about, but everything's going to be okay, you guys. The question that I want to cover this segment is, what if the Habs regress next season? What if they don't make the playoffs? What if they make the playoffs but get kicked out in the first round again? What do we as a fan base do? Thoughts?
We run around and get really mad. Uh, oh, sorry. Did you ask what we should do and not what we will do? Uh, I think that it's okay. Everything's okay. I can admit I would personally be disappointed if they missed the playoffs. I and if they I honestly I wouldn't be too disappointed if they were out in the first round, depending on competition, but I would be disappointed with the lack of playoffs. But I think there's a lot of other factors here. The biggest thing being that we forget, I think, because of how well the end of the season went, how bad some parts of it were. I'm not sure if you remember how bad it got, but it was ugly. There were some games that I was like, oh, I can't believe I have to do a post game show on this. Um, and last year's the chips just fell in a way that the division and the conference was worked out so that the Habs were the least bad, right? I still think they earned their spot. Let's be very clear about that. They earned their spot, but it wasn't the hardest year. Um, they were able to make up for it. So there is a world in which this year they have periods where they're rough, and their good portions are as good or even better than this year's, but it doesn't matter because another team just stepped in and was just good enough in through the entire season. So I think that's the thing that will really be something to watch with this team is consistency. I think we all need to be measured, which is hard to ask, but I think we all need to be a little bit measured and go into the season managing expectations. Um, I have some high expectations, but that's for players. That's what my assessment of next season is. I'd love the team to do super well, but to me, I'm going to be looking at the players. Again, super long answer, but
No, but I think it's totally fair, right? Again, this is not us saying they will regress. I think one of
Yes.
the key things that we do have to keep in mind as fans, we have to manage our expectations because the Canadians are in a really tough division. This division sent 5 teams to the playoffs last year, right? 5
Mhm.
whole teams. And
Insane.
there's right, and there's no guarantee, right? Like they got lucky because the Rangers were not good, right? So they were a non-factor in that wild card race towards the end. They got lucky in that Columbus was not able to just make it, and that's even just the second wild card spot, right? Then we want to talk about the Atlantic Division. You know, Detroit, they need to take a step forward. They need to do something because they've been in the Canadians beat them at their own game, right? And so you've also got Tampa Bay's not going
Laura, they're
away.
drafting. Sorry.
Tampa Bay's not going away, right? Everyone knows that Florida will be at or near the top of the division. Like, and they don't even need to win the division. They don't care, right? Like, they just want to make the playoffs. They know that they have such a good shot. And then you've got Toronto, who will regress, but not all the way. You've got Boston, who every time I think they're dead, they come back to life the following year. So I always want to caution people that it's not just about what the Canadians do. It is about what the division does as well.
Mhm.
And I think the biggest thing for me as a Canadians fan is, like you said, I'm watching the players, right? I want overall in the team, I want to see a little less of that lopsidedness where they were so bad for 2 months and then they were really good for a bit and then they were bad again and then they were just really good, right? I want to see, like you said, the word consistency, right? I want to see some lessons learned from that. I want to see some maturity because a lot of times, and we were on those post games, whether it was together on our respective shows, there was a lot of immaturity that we talked about last season, which is natural with a young team. But despite all of that, so many players were able to, at the end of the year, put together something that made us really excited and proud. So I think for me, what I'm looking for, again, I'm looking for Nick Suzuki to hit 92 points in a season, right? I'm looking for Cole Caulfield. Like, I'm not saying he's going to score 40 goals in a season immediately after he scored 37 goals, but now we know he's no longer the best 40 goal scorer to never have scored 30 goals. Now we know
I want him to touch that. I want him to jump really high for that.
Exactly. We want to see Slavkovsky not be second half Slav. We want to see him full season Slav, right? There's so much stuff. We want to see if Lane Hudson, after his rookie year, like my co-host Ian's always saying this is the worst he's ever going to be. And I'm always like, whoa, sophomore year coming up.
Let's slow down.
So I want to see what happens. Like, how does Lane Hudson handle that, right? I want to see Samuel Montembeault. I want to see if Jakub Dobeš really is, bona fide backup, like somebody who I think could be a number 1B. We want to see all of that, but there's also some young players. But I think at the end of the day, when I say if the Habs regress, I mean mostly in the standings. I don't mean individually. I mean, if the Habs are not a playoff team, if they are happy to be in the mix next year, what happens? And I think as fans, we should be looking out for can they fix the power play, right? Now they have Ivan Demidov. Is that going to solve everything, right? Like, have they figured out what to do with Mike Matheson and Patrick Laine on the power play? They both have a lot to offer, but the Canadians have not been using them well, right? Just lots of stuff like that. We've got Bolduc now, right? We've got Noah Dobson now. Like, what happens if the Montreal Canadiens have, 2 defense pairings that can move the puck, that are kind of balanced between somebody who's really good offensively and somebody who's really good defensively? We don't know. So I think that it's good to be uncertain, but I really sincerely, the only thing I want to see this upcoming season is not a really bad start that was consistently bad for 2 months with no hope.
Yeah, I don't want any of those long sustained periods of misery. I don't want it to be a last minute prove it to me, I don't trade your friends away trade deadline. Like, it's great and all that Nick Suzuki could make it work, but I don't want him to have to do that again, because he will, knock on wood, also be a little, maybe perhaps worn out, because he's going to, knock on wood, possibly play for a team that starts with the word C with the event that starts at O, right? Like, I'm excited for the things I'm going to see from players, but I'm trying to be a lot more measured about my expectations for the team. All that being said, Laura, am I going to crash out if they don't make the playoffs?
Yes.
Maybe.
So will we. That's
a day
fine.
or two. For at least a day or two, right?
Yeah, and that's totally fine, legit, and allowed, and that is what we will be doing when we get to it. But I did have a fun kind of speculative segment coming up, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what if like Florian Xhekaj makes the team right out of camp. What if we have a season of two Xhekajs on one team? Again, this is a fun exercise, not necessarily rooted in reality, but it's still in Florian Xhekaj's hands, I believe. And we're going to talk about that coming up in just one moment. You just realized you needed to hire yesterday. And how could you find amazing candidates fast to fill that hole? Easy. You just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. And I can tell you that hiring is so, so important, especially if you're in a leadership role, whether you own a business, you're a manager, you need the right hire, and you often need them yesterday. It really is important for the dynamic of your team, getting your work done. And so the pressure's always on. And that's exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. And now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. All right. Real quick, though, we were talking about Suzuki at the end of the last segment. I do want to know, Kay, I got asked this on another show. I got asked, what was your favorite part of Nick Suzuki's wedding? And the answer I gave was, I love that they went to Turks and Caicos and did it privately and then surprised their whole team, their loved ones at on the wedding day in Montreal. But one of the things I have to say, one of the highlights for me was the video that was posted of the shirtless players dancing.
Oh, oh my God, that's always so much fun. I feel like there's nothing hockey players like more than going to a wedding and taking off their shirts.
Right?
Yeah, another one of my favorite players is getting married this season, and I'm unlike uh unlike Nick Suzuki, it seems like his teammates are keeping it a little bit more private, but I'm on the case. Much like I was for Nick Suzuki, which is why one of the things I know about their wedding, and this is going to sound super like uh high horse, but I swear it's not. I'm just really happy about this. I believe someone on Instagram confirmed that one of the things that the Suzuki's asked for as a wedding gift was donations to their favorite charities, rather than wedding gifts. And that's just so sweet to me. That's such a lovely thing. I would imagine, I don't want to speculate, but I would imagine there's some local charities there because they're both very involved in that. And I love that. But for a more like fun answer, I would say there is a video somewhere of I believe it's it's Slav just absolutely having a blast. And it's just so fun to see that kid being a kid, right? So I loved it. I loved it so much. I was keeping up, man.
I also love there was a picture of like all the shirts that have been thrown up in the air over some sort of thing. That was truly amazing. But the reason I brought this up is the reason I love Nick Suzuki so much is that he truly understands the assignment, right? He and his wife understand the assignment. When you were captain of the Montreal Canadiens, and they were so young when he was appointed, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
they just get it, right? They get involved in the local charities. They had their like big wedding celebration here, right? I believe they've bought a place here to live.
They have.
Yeah, and so like it's just there's something so important about that. And he's learning French. So somebody like I don't know who it was that let it slip that his French is a lot more than like is
Yes.
a lot better than we see, right?
Mhm.
It's really good. And so there's something that I love about him. Anyways, that is our Nick Suzuki tangent. We both are Nick Suzuki enjoyers. I
Yeah,
believe that's
yeah,
officially in your social media title.
yes.
And I want to turn our attention really quickly to Florian and Arbor Xhekaj. So one of the things that my co-host loves to point out is every time there's a scrum, there's always like two officials of some whatever combination, immediately, no matter what's going on in the scrum, like you could be beheading someone out there. But if Arbor Xhekaj is on the ice, the officials will immediately go and just both hold on to him, right?
Mhm.
So I put to you, Kay, what happens when there's two Xhekajs on the ice? And then there's four officials usually, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Two of them are on one brother. One of
Yeah.
them is in the middle of another scrum. So there's only one official left for the other Xhekaj. So I wanted to just kind of speculate a little bit. Let's start with real quick. Do we think that Florian Xhekaj has what it takes to grab the opportunity by the horns and make the team out of camp?
I would never say never with a Xhekaj. I remember when Florian was drafted, I was being such a grumpy baby about it. Like I was overreacting. I think because I was just in a weird mood after I think it was the Reinbacher year. So when you're like already kind of upset and everything else is like making you so mad. And I was like, that's a Nepo pick. Why are we doing this? First of all, it was such a late pick that relax. It does not matter. Like that it does not matter at that point. But I've never been more glad to be wrong in my life. I think there's something there, right? And I'm not the only one to say it. I think we can all see there's something there. And that's me kind of copping out of saying, do I think he'll make out of camp or not? Because my one thing is, I think there's a lot of possible spots that maybe some possible rookies could be auditioning for. And some of them have been in Laval longer than him. So I think that's he's going to have to do something impressive.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean fight. It means show us something on the ice.
Yeah, and I think one of the things with the Jackeyes is that nobody doubts how tough they are. And I think
Yeah.
they also, well, Arbor does. I'm not sure about Florian just yet, but they also understand that everyone knows how tough they are. They need to show the other dimensions to their game, right? And I think Florian was really impressive in Laval this year. 24 goals, honestly, incredible. Also, while still being tough and being, a violent gentleman. But I really like what I want to see is something. There are spots on the bottom six. There truly are, right? They are there for the taking until Kent Hughes starts hiring for them. There's people in Laval that need to fight for those spots. So I do think that there's an outside chance that he could make the team out of camp, right? So then what do you do if you have two Xhekajs on the ice all the time? Is there a possibility that they cannot be contained?
I was gonna say I think the league might make an exception and put an extra official on ice for Habs games. I think it'll be funny to see who starts getting more ire from the officials once hopefully both of them are playing on the team, because usually it's Arbor who gets the brunt of it. But I feel like there's a chance he could move away from that, except it gets passed on to Florian. So I'm just excited to see what tough decisions the officials make, not to protect players, but which Xhekaj are we going to grab? So excited.
Do you think they'll get together and be like, okay, this time we've got the forward, you guys get the defenseman? Because I don't know if our listeners
Grab
remember this.
Xhekaj. Which one?
Grab them both. So I don't know if our listeners remember this, but after I believe it was after the Rocket made the conference final. They made the final. We had Scott Matlaw on, who had covered one of the games, and when he was getting ready to leave after filing his piece, he runs into both Xhekaj brothers in the hallway. And they were talking about how to fight, like Arbor Xhekaj and Florian Xhekaj were talking about the best ways to fight, right? Like this is their conversation at home. This is their family conversation. And also, like, one of the things I love is that there's been so many people all over social media running into them at concerts, like at Lasso or the country music one at Budweiser Gardens or whatever. The Budweiser stage, not Budweiser Gardens. But I just love that they just that's what they talk about. They talk about how to fight, right? There's something about that. So I
do hope Xhekaj. Wow. I hope Arbor, because I was gonna call him Xhekaj. I do hope Arbor tells Florian a little bit something about how the best course of action to make the team isn't to not play in the preseason by constantly being in the penalty box. And I hope Arbor taught himself that lesson too. And I believe in him because he's constantly shown improvement. So I have no reason to doubt him.
Yeah, and I just remember how like at the beginning of the preseason he kept doing those things and then we kept getting mad about it. And then people got mad at us and we were like, no, we want more Xhekaj. That's why we're mad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I really just wanted to have that fun speculative exercise with Kay. Anything else did you want to bring up before we have to wrap up the show? I'm really bummed because we have to wrap up the show because I love talking about you so much.
Not really. I'm just so excited for this season. Just one thing is that I am so excited by how much hockey nerdness we have on our team. I'm not sure if you've seen, but Demidov is constantly on ice. Demidov, I think. Sorry. Demidov is constantly on ice. Hudson lives on ice. Like, I'm really excited for this team. But one thing I must say is I am really mourning Yoel Armia. I saw a picture of him for some reason somewhere. I was like, my king. So I just want to throw out one last, because I'm going to have to stop talking about Yoel Armia, but man, I love that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my closing message.
I think we will miss him a lot. I do like that you said that because for those of you who missed our Monday episode, please go check it out because Patrick Bexell was on talking about how Adam Engstrom does the same thing. He's been working really hard on improving himself, and so we might see him on the team next year. One thing that I do hope we see is a lot more of Kay. So Kay, please tell us where people can find you and hopefully where we'll be seeing you during the season.
You can follow Game Over at Game Over. Just Google Game Over NHL and you'll find us. It's been so long since I've done this, but hey, on Blue Sky, I'm line composition. On Twitter, you'll find me at K_IamDudley. I'm more active there right now, but once the season kind of ramps up, I'd like to be back on Blue Sky a little bit. You can find me talking about the Habs somewhere, and hopefully you can find me back on Locked On Canadiens at some point soon. So
well, the people always demand it, so it'll definitely happen. Real quick before I wrap up, I do want to give everyone the trivia answer to the question I asked last episode. I had asked because people had confused Sam Montembeault for being French for France. Who is the actual French goalie and the first French goaltender to play in the NHL? The actual French goalie that was a former Montreal Canadian. Everybody got that right. The answer was Cristobal Hughes. I have a trivia question kind of in the works that was handed to me by our last guest. I am just fact checking it before I ask it to you guys. So make sure that you tune into the Friday episode with the mailbag so I can offer you that question once I fact checked it. It just completely slipped my mind that I was supposed to do that. So I'm so sorry, everybody. I do want to also apologize for being late, but you know what? We got Kay. So I hope that makes up for the tardiness of this episode. I want to thank you all for listening. I want to remind you all that you can subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. We're free and available everywhere. You can find us on social media. We're on Blue Sky at Locked On Canadiens. We are on TikTok at Locked On Canadiens. We are on Instagram at Locked On Canadiens. Most importantly, we want to hear from you at LockedOnCanadiens@gmail.com. Send us mailbag questions. Send us pictures of your kids in Habs sweaters. Send us pictures or send us stories of the time that you met Arbor Xhekaj and how amazing he was. I know he is because a bunch of you have sent me stories like that. So please do that. Ian will be back next week, but I'm solo for the mailbag. So please send mailbag questions. LockedOnCanadiens@gmail.com and all the social media I just talked about. Thank you so much, and I will be back on Friday.